What's going on, everybody? It's your boy DJ Arco.
And I am the queen, and you are tuned in to Boss Talk.
And today we have another one of our special guests,
And
one of
yes,
our
yes.
special skaters who is in the skate community that we want to introduce you guys to. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So we want to welcome you for coming on, Mr. James Stewart. How you doing today?
Okay.
All right. All right. Good deal. So we always going to start off with asking our signature question, and that is, how long have you been skating?
52 years.
Okay.
52 years.
Wow.
Is that the record so far? Is that the
That
record?
is.
That's the
That
record.
is the record so
Yeah.
far. So then all of those, all of the people we've had on the show before, I know you've probably interacted with most of them in the skate
Hmm.
world, some of them. So yeah, you are the record. You have the longest skate history.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So this is going to be interesting. So let's start with the year.
I started in September of 1968.
September 1968. Okay. Now, was it
Mhm.
something that your family did, or is it just something that you just wanted to try? Do you remember?
Well, my mother got me interested in it. When she grew up in South Carolina, she skated, but the thing she told me was at that time, black people weren't allowed inside the skating rink, so they
Mm.
skated outside.
Okay.
Um, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that how you basically got your start, was skating outside?
At first, but then she knew about a rink in the town where I grew up in, which was Trenton, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So one Saturday afternoon, she took me there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it started.
Oh, that's where when did you fall in love with skating though?
I pretty much fell in love with that after that first day because I took to it right away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was, I didn't think it was going to be that easy, but I say within half an hour, I was skating around. I just took to it.
Oh wow.
Wow.
So you're a natural then.
I guess. Yeah.
So do you remember what the tension was like back then going to the skating rinks, especially with the separation of the races?
Well, during that time, the whole scene actually was different. Of course, the rink where it was situated was close to a mostly white area,
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
and they noticed that more and more blacks were coming skating, and some of them took offense to it. And they did little subtle things here and there, but as our numbers grew, we overcame that.
Mm-hmm.
But also like I said, the whole scene was different because we didn't have DJs back then.
Mm-hmm.
We
okay.
skated to organ music, and
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
the organ players were like the DJs are now.
Mm-hmm.
If the right organ player came, it was a great time.
Did they ever do a mix?
Actually, there was one guy. All I remember his name was John. He was a very colorful guy. He wore plaid suits
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
to the rink and a big bow tie,
Mm-hmm.
and he was always smiling. He would go straight to the organ and start playing all the hits that you would hear on the radio.
Wow,
wow.
wow. So being that it
Yeah,
was played on the organ, how long did the sessions typically last?
And was it only one organ player for the whole
yeah,
session?
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
mm,
Well, in the daytime it was from 2 to 5,
mhm,
and then at night it was from 7:30 to 11,
mhm,
and there were no adult nights
mm,
at
Oh,
all.
mm,
I mean,
okay.
adults and kids came at any time
mhm.
during that time. We didn't
Well,
know. I didn't know what an adult night was until I started skating further north, like in Newark and New York,
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
because the rink in Trenton didn't have never had any adult.
Yeah.
Wow.
So with the
But it was
organ,
successful.
so so with the organist being there, he's constantly having to use his finger. Did he ever take a break at all, or was it like an
Yeah,
intermission or anything?
well, yeah. He would put a tape on,
Oh, okay. Mhm,
Okay.
and that would be for about 45 minutes, and he'd
mhm,
go back and play again.
mhm. So, what was your favorite song to skate to back then? Because I know they ain't had no Lil Jon, they ain't had no Shot Pro Style, they ain't had no, no Isley Brothers, So what was your favorite
Well,
song to
you well,
skate to?
it's funny you should say that because some of that stuff he actually played
Wow.
Oh, okay.
because um, DJs didn't start happening at that rate until 1973,
Mm,
and it was probably the most radical change in the skate world that I've ever
mm,
known. A lot of my skate partners at the time, because they didn't want to skate to what was actually played on the radio, when the DJs started coming in, they stopped skating.
Wow.
oh,
That's
mm,
interesting.
Yeah.
mm,
Oh
That's
yeah,
interesting.
because we had a different mindset back then. We wanted to do something that wasn't done on the radio.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
We wanted to be separate from that.
Yeah.
And I was 16 when all this was happening, but the crowd started, falling off.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the floor guards decided to bring in a record player
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and a stack of 40,
Hey.
a,
hey, that was
a
in the
stack of
future.
45s, and they would put a mic to the record player because there was
There was
no
no big speakers
DJ
and
booth,
stuff, huh?
Mm,
and they did that for 2 years
mm,
Wow.
mm,
until the rink decided to create, you know, a DJ booth and all that kind of,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all that kind of thing. But for 2 years, that's what we were doing. And I can remember the first song that I skated off of was Eddie Kendrick's "Keep On Trucking."
Hey.
Hey.
Well, then that was right up your alley because not only are you a skater, you're also a musician and you
Right.
play multiple
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
instruments. So
Yeah.
the
Which
yeah.
trend. Go ahead.
we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
So I want to know a little bit more about this
This
transition from
I
the
know
organ over
to
to
the
the
45.
to the 45s, and because as a DJ, I personally like radio music.
Hmm.
If you want to hear radio music, you
Yeah.
can listen to the radio.
Yeah.
So I prefer
Yeah.
to not play radio music. So
Mhm.
for you
Right.
guys, when you went from the
Organist.
organist to the DJ or whatever it was, like was it pure chaos? Because you said a lot of them just didn't take to it, and a lot of them
Yeah, a lot
stopped
of them did.
skating.
A lot of them didn't take to it, and like the first DJs were actually the floor guards that worked at the
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
rink.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have a real DJ per se
Okay.
until 1976.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's when they hired somebody outside of working at the rink
Mm-hmm.
to do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So the floor guards actually were the first quote unquote DJs
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they would bring in records, or they would bring in enough records for like 3 hours
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
and do it that way.
Yeah.
Or on some days it would be half records and half organ.
Mm.
But by
Mm.
that time it was recorded organ.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was it for you in that
Yeah.
transition over?
Yeah.
How did you adapt to it?
Oh, I adapted to it, because I felt like, well, it wasn't ever going to change back.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So I just accepted it.
Mm. Gotcha.
It was some trepidation here and there with certain things because the organ had a different the organ sound had a different beat and you had to skate a different way
Mm.
to that.
Mm.
And it was a, a transition with the style of skating too.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow.
And
But
what was the go ahead.
that was the most radical change ever in
Mm.
skating in my lifetime.
Wow.
But what was the style of skating? Because it wasn't jam skating like they do now. Like, was it more artistic skating in the
Like
beginning, or
figure skating.
yeah?
Not so much with the black people.
Uh huh.
It was more like that with the whites that were going in, and we learned some of those moves.
Okay.
We incorporated some of those moves into what we were doing. We were doing more like shuffle stuff, and
Mm.
Hmm.
sometimes we even did drill steps
Mm.
All right
Mm.
now.
Mm.
on skate.
So y'all were the first ones to do the electric slide
I
then,
know, right? That
or
line
the
dancing.
line dancing.
In a manner of speaking, yes, but we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
moving. back then we were moving doing that. We weren't in place,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
which is a whole different dynamic. And
Yeah.
we would be like, and at the most 10 of us together
Hmm.
skating in, a line group of three next to each other. But
Mm-hmm.
it was a big crowd, and of course, we had the trains and all that, but
Mm-hmm.
trains were different back then because we did something that they call crack the whip,
Mm.
Okay,
where when
now.
you get near that corner and you just swing, and
Mm-hmm.
whoever's on the end just better be able to hold it up.
Crack the whip.
So, when
Yeah,
would you say that skating really started to take off for the African American community around your time? Because you said
around
that
my
it
time,
slowly
I,
started to bring in more African Americans to the rinks.
the mid 70s actually,
Mid
Okay.
70s. Mm-hmm. Okay.
like 74, 75.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm.
in fact, um, at first black people were only going on Sunday night, and see, there's a history with that too, because a lot of the rinks that had mostly white, Sunday was their slowest night.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that was the night that black people were actually allowed to go because nobody
Mhm.
white was skating.
That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Could you see a
So
pattern of
that's
that
why,
now? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that was it's a long-standing tradition. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the younger skaters don't even realize why Sunday night is so big, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm.
Sunday night is big, because that was our night, because it was slow, and the managers wanted to still have business going.
Mm-hmm.
So they made it conducive for blacks to skate on that night.
Mm.
But then we really got into it
Mm-hmm.
and started taking things a step further. And I say by 1975, at that particular rink in Trent, we went from just going on Sunday night to going on Friday through Sunday night.
Okay,
Started
now.
the takeover began.
I know, right?
Yeah, it began, but it began without fanfare by that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of a lot of them, we were more welcoming, and they were trying to do what we were doing. We were
Mm-hmm.
trying to do what they were doing. So
Mm-hmm.
it worked out.
Mm-hmm. Now, through those years, you actually saw a transition from the music, from the organ, and then I believe in the 70s, that was when the roller disco era came, and it
Yeah.
was disco
Oh
music.
yeah.
And everybody wearing the bell bottoms and the tight shirts and their chest, and the man meat was hanging out their shirts and everything like that.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, so you remember them days. So what was you wearing?
Yeah.
That's what.
So see, by that time, I eventually became a floor guard myself,
Okay.
Okay.
and I was like, floor guards are like the skate police. So,
Hmm.
we just made sure that the traffic flowed, and then sometimes we got a chance to show off, because back in my time, in order to be a floor guard, you had to audition. You couldn't just
Okay.
say, "I want to be a floor guard."
Uh-huh.
You had to audition, and it was a rigorous process. You had to be able to get up and down the floor fast. Um, they would throw garbage cans on the floor, and we had to jump over them.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in basic training.
I know I was
Yeah,
gonna
that's what it was. That's
Man,
what it was. That's what it was. We had to jump
wow,
over garbage cans. We had to know how to work on skates rather than just skate. We had to know all the parts of the skate.
wow.
So that's a real
And
floor guard.
That's a real floor guy,
Yeah.
and you know what? That's actually
yeah,
pretty
Yeah.
good. That's something that these rinks should actually
Yeah.
bring back. Is
Mhm.
like if you're going to be a floor guard, you need to understand
Mhm.
skates and
Yeah.
the structure, the pieces, how they go together, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and how to jump over garbage cans because essentially those are jumping over
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, in some instances.
right. We had to
Wow.
know how to take skates apart and put them back together and
Yeah.
all
Yeah. Wow.
that.
Wow. Wow.
So in the rinks in back in your day, like most of the rinks probably were not African American owned or many weren't. So was there any tension like when you went to be a floor guard? Was it welcoming for you to be a floor guard? Were you only a floor guard on black nights or was it throughout the sessions?
No, we were all floor guards on any night, because we only like there was like 6 of us during my time,
Hmm.
and 4 of us were black
Mm,
Okay.
mm, mm. Wow.
because
How?
we passed the audition process, and like I said, we knew not only we knew skating, but we knew skates, and that was
Mm,
Right.
important.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a rink manager. He was very picky about who he sold skates to because if you wanted an expensive pair of skates, first he said, "Well, I have to see you skate first.
mm.
And if you couldn't measure up, then he wouldn't sell them to you."
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah, he said, "Well, you stick with the cheap skates until you get better."
Oh wow. Hey.
Did they have brownies back then? Were they called brownies back then?
No, they had black and white skates.
Okay.
Mm, mm,
Okay.
Yeah,
mm.
and the skate rental was only 50 cents.
Wow. I was gonna ask you how much was the admission to get in?
Yeah.
Well, when I first started on a Saturday afternoon, admission was 50 cents.
Wow.
Okay. So
Uh-oh.
your admission is 50 cents and skate rental 50 cents. So $1, you got 3 hours of skate.
Okay, we actually lost him. I think his
Phone
uh
ring or
yeah,
something.
either his phone rang or his phone died. One to two.
But it's interesting, like over the decades, how things have changed but yet stayed the same.
Right, right.
Like he was talking about how Sunday nights
Hmm.
were the night designated for Black people because that was their slowest night, and now Sunday nights are designated for a lot of
For
adult
a lot
nights.
of yeah, a lot of
Um,
adult nights or Sunday
yeah,
nights
Sunday
now.
nights,
So
and
that's history. Yeah.
people don't even realize that
Hmm.
the
I'm back.
significance of it.
All right, welcome back. We're actually just recapping the significance of Sunday night and how,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah, like I said, Sunday night was a long-standing tradition among black skaters,
hmm hmm yes,
and still trying to get my picture in here. I can
Okay.
hear you,
Okay.
okay, all right, no
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, just
but
just just hit the video icon whenever you're ready. It should pop
okay.
right back in. Um, yeah, so it's like, and even now, Sundays are
Yeah.
usually the slowest night still.
Right.
So they like
And
to
and rink owners still want to fill their floor, so
fill
they
onto
give
the
it to
floor. Hmm.
us
Hmm.
so that we can fill the rink on
Yeah.
those nights.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
just a reoccurring,
Yeah.
historical reference. You
Yeah.
know, that's very interesting.
Yeah. It's very interesting because, as a matter of fact, I was speaking with one of the skaters here, and we actually had a conversation about that at one point in time about how Sunday nights are traditionally um, the adult nights for the 18 or older, or they call
Right.
it the soul nights and stuff
Right.
like that. But
Hmm.
now we understand
Right.
where
Yeah.
it officially came from.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of always figured, that maybe that's where it came from, but
Hmm.
now we have confirmation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart, on that.
Oh,
So
thanks. I know you can't see me, but I can see and hear you.
Okay.
no,
Okay.
it's fine. You can still work on your phone, and
Okay.
we'll still uh, speak to you about your journey and everything. So around the 70s, you were in the New York area.
Yeah. Well, I skated. I was born and raised in Trenton, so I skated there, and I skated in Newark, and I skated in New York, and I skated in Philadelphia.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was the skate sessions there? Were they packed? Were they full of people? Um, did they start their adult nights around that time?
I started noticing adult nights in the late '70s.
Hmm.
Uh, the Twin City roller rink in Newark was the
Mm.
first place that I knew that had them.
Okay.
Um, they would have a midnight session,
Mm.
midnight to 3 a.m. starting in
Wow.
1999.
Wow.
Mm.
They
Wow.
had for my money, they had the best skate parties that I ever known because on a holiday weekend on Saturday night they would open from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Mm.
Whoa, now that's a party.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that was for adults, and then they had one for all ages on Sunday from noon to midnight.
Mm.
Ah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And during that time, for the family sessions, was it like, in our day, like our parents used to drop us off at the rink and give us food and we just stayed there all day until we were tired, or they came back and picked us up after they did all their running around? Was it similar during that time that a lot of kids went there and just stayed there for the entire day?
Well, on the weekends it was like that.
Okay.
It was like I said, it was from 2 to 5,
Mhm.
and they would come back and pick them up, and then bring them back at 7:30 if if they wanted to.
Mhm.
But different rinks had different sets of rules. Twin City was unique because they had adult nights on Wednesday nights from 9 until 1, and like I said, on the Friday Saturday transition from midnight to 3.
Mhm.
So they had that going, and some rinks had inflation fighter nights where on a weeknight it was only $1 to get in.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Wow. That's some
And
inflation.
I know that inflation fighter. That's for sure. That's a good idea.
That's a good name too. Inflation
Let me write that down.
yeah, they call it inflation fighter night, and that was usually on Wednesday
fighter.
in the Trenton area, and
Mhm.
it it was pretty successful.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. So how was the progression of the skating rinks
Mhm.
from the 60s up until we'll say the late 70s, early 80s? Because a lot of stuff has changed. You said
Yeah.
they went from the organ music to you know yeah, the
45
45 with
to
a
the DJ.
yeah, DJ. So
Mhm.
what about the whole ambiance of the rink as far as lighting and everything like
Well, um, for one thing, they had all these different aspects going on with all skate, couples skate,
that? Hmm.
men and ladies only, or they had another section where if you can only do dance steps,
Hmm.
and if you couldn't do them, you couldn't get on the floor. So
Yeah, yeah.
all kinds of different things. But then all of that started fading away. The lighting was different because it was always bright for the all skate sessions, and then they would dim them a little bit for some of the other
Hmm.
uh, events going on, like like couples and all that. Um, then of course the floor guards had their little 5 minutes to show off in front of the crowd. We would have the floors to ourselves and do what we planned to do that
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
whole day. And like I said, back then the floor guards, they had to know all the stuff, and plus they had to be one of the best skaters in the rink. So
Mm.
there was a period of time when everybody looked up to us because they wanted to know certain things about skating, so they would come to
Yeah.
us about
Well, it's interesting. You don't really see too many of the um, categorized, I guess, skate sections of a skate night, sort of like men only, women's only.
Oh yeah.
You're
Mhm.
starting to see less and less of that.
Mhm.
And I know for myself, I would love to do it, but a majority of the time, there's really just not enough people to
Oh
actually
yeah.
do it,
Yeah, it's depending on the
or they
session.
don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay, all right. Well, you try to make it fun and interesting for them, but a lot of
it.
that
Yeah.
stuff seems to
Mhm.
be going away. So,
Well, a lot of stuff just wasn't passed down to the younger skaters, and
hmm.
that's why the dynamic is different now than it was when I was growing up. See, it was passed down to us,
Hmm.
and we aspired to reach a certain level so that we could be involved in those kinds of things. Because
Hmm.
the thing was, if you couldn't skate, then you couldn't participate.
Hey, hey, there you
So
go.
we would go in the daytime and practice for the night session.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. Wow.
And once we reached that status, we were happy about it.
Yeah. So, being that you've come through these generations and you've seen all these changes and morphing of the skate world, um, what what would you say is missing from the skate world, the skate community today?
Well, I have to start with the floor guards because the ones that I know now know nothing about skates.
Hmm.
And still, because they knew that I used to do that, they would come to me and ask me, and they don't audition anymore.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So half the skaters that come skating can outskate the people that work there.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that is
That
true.
Yeah, that is true.
Hmm.
I've seen plenty of times you have floor guards out there and they're even scared to say anything
Yeah,
to the other
yeah,
skaters because they're like, well, they're older than me or they're
yeah,
bigger than me or whatever the case is. So essentially they're just rolling around in a circle, they'll blow
yeah.
their whistle and they'll
With their
just
black
keep
and
on
white shirt
rolling.
on.
Yeah, and they'll just keep on rolling.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. I start with that, and as far as the crowd is like it's like a roller coaster.
hmm
Some weeks it's crowded, some weeks it's not. It's not that much consistency going around,
hmm
and there's a lot more younger skaters coming in that really don't know the dynamic of what they're into.
yeah,
I
yeah.
say they don't they haven't lasted as long as I have.
Hmm.
I'm 63 now and I'm still skating.
Mm,
All right
that's
now.
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, other than the floor guards, in terms of the energy inside of the rinks and how things have changed inside of the rinks with the people, how has that changed throughout the times from then until now for you?
Well, one of the good things from my perspective is a lot of the skaters are a lot more athletic now than they were when I was coming.
Okay.
Hmm.
Some of the moves that they do requires a bit of athleticism
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
we didn't really have back then.
Hmm.
And I like seeing that kind of thing. But sometimes they get lost in being fundamentally sound. So when it comes to fundamentals, they'll ask me about that kind of stuff so they can do what they do better.
Hmm.
Right.
So they're not as fundamentally sound, but they're a lot more athletic than I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you
And
guys
of
go
course,
ahead?
the lady skaters have really turned it up several notches
Mm.
because there are a lot of lady skaters that are just as good, if not better, than a lot of the male skaters.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
Hmm.
that wasn't the thing when I was younger,
Hmm.
but it's a thing now. I mean, there's a lot of female skaters that are fantastic.
Yeah. So was it more male dominated before?
I think it's always been
Well, to a degree. I mean, even back in the day, there were female skaters that we all knew that had a lot together.
Mm-hmm.
And
male. Mm.
as a male, you had to have a lot together to skate with them, or they wouldn't skate with you. But
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
hasn't changed too much. But like I said, they're a lot more athletic now, and they take a lot more chances than they used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, ladies, you heard that. So you get your kudos. You heard it here from Mr. Stewart. So we know that it's so infrequent that people do recognize the female skaters
Mm-hmm.
and their abilities.
They go.
Yeah, in their
Mm-hmm.
abilities. So I'm so glad that you did mention that.
Yeah.
Um, but did you guys have skate groups back then, like they have now? They have all these skate crews.
Oh yeah, we had those too.
Okay.
The most popular in the '70s was the Soul Travelers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was an all-black skate group that had memberships from Newark to Camden.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the biggest skate club in its day. And as the skaters got older and stopped skating, the club eventually died out. But that was the biggest and most well known. And there was another skate club called the Blue Gorillas.
Okay.
Blue gorillas.
Were you
They
in
were
any of
based.
these clubs?
I was no, I was in the Soul Travelers for a while, but
Okay.
Blue Gorillas was based in Newark and New York,
Hmm.
and their organization was pretty big too.
Okay.
So were you guys doing any traveling outside of those areas at all to any other states or anything like that? Or you guys just pretty much predominantly stayed where you was at?
No, we all traveled, but see, traveling was a lot different back then because when we traveled, it was just us.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like it is now, where if you go on a skate trip and you see all your friends that you skated with in your town at a skate party in Georgia or Alabama somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it has good points and it has bad points because for me, the bad point was I want to be able to get away from you guys.
Where's that? I want to go and see you somewhere else.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I want to see the different styles of skating
Okay.
rather than seeing what I'm seeing at home because I'm seeing all of you people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So that yeah, back when we traveled, like I said, it was just us and we stood out
Mm-hmm.
and we made a lot more friends that way
Mm-hmm. Wow.
than it is now. It seems like the New York style or New Jersey style has pretty much taken over the country,
Mhm. So,
especially Atlanta.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, with everything, the COVID and so forth, before all this happened, how often were you skating?
Uh, well, at my age now, on average, twice a week.
Mhm.
When I was younger, it was five, sometimes six times a week, sometimes twice in a day.
Wow.
Mm.
Well, I see you rocking that COVID afro.
Yeah, my first afro in almost 40 years.
Thank you, COVID. Looks nice. The salt and pepper looks great on you.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
So, let's talk a little bit about your music now,
Yeah.
because
okay.
you're actually
A saxophonist, a flutist, a clarinetist.
Yeah. Um, I started playing in bands. Well, in my high school years, and my high school teacher, his brother was a well-known jazz musician.
Okay.
His brother played with Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane.
Oh.
nice.
Yeah,
Wow, wow, wow.
and it kind of thrust me into the jazz world. Although I did play in funk bands too. I played with
Mm-hmm.
Gloria Gaynor
Mm-hmm.
and Angela Bofield, who was a supreme taskmaster.
Mm.
And I played with some of those singing groups like the Dells and the Temptations.
Wow, wow. So
And
what?
then I played in a lot of jazz groups
Mm-hmm.
like Frank Foster and his Loud Minority Big Band, which is an all black big band at the time.
Okay.
I played with Abdullah Ibrahim, a South African jazz pianist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And of course, I freelanced in and around New York with different people.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, back in 2013, I did half a year with Macy Gray and half a year with
Love Macy
Solange.
Gray.
Wow,
Yes,
wow.
she was a very high strung personality.
She's very unique, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Very eclectic.
So your instrument is of choice is the saxophone. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now you've
Mhm.
also played with Chaka Khan, huh?
Yeah, back in 2006 at Salt Lake City, Utah.
Mm-hmm. How was that? Is she a
Yeah.
diva?
No, actually, she was so down to earth that we couldn't believe she was who she was
Mm.
because she came in and shook hands with everybody. And then we were eating and she ate with us.
Mm.
And we were just staring at her eating because she took down a Cornish hen like it was
Tear that food up, huh?
a small piece of chicken. And then she started burping all over the place.
Oh Lord.
Oh
Hey, so
man.
she down to earth. So y'all don't
Oh
ain't no
yeah.
diva. She's a diva in her own right, but she's down to earth.
Yeah,
Wow.
the only divas that I came across was Melba Moore and Diana Ross.
Oh well,
Mm.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can see
Yeah.
that.
So what's been one of the your best experiences in your musical journey?
Well, one, like I said, was with Frank Foster.
Mhm.
He was a saxophone player that played in the Count Basie band for 11 years.
Mhm.
And he decided to form his own band. But the unique thing about it was he kept his own band black, all black,
Mhm.
at at a lot of expense because there were people that didn't hire him because this band was like that, but
Mm.
he wouldn't change.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
Mm.
he was like that until he died. He kept his band all black until he died, and we respected him for it.
Wow. 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 That's all right.
I mean, Wynton Marsalis tried to do that with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, but
Mm.
then he got pushed into changing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. So are you still playing now?
Oh yeah, I'm still playing. Well, of course, I'm not playing due to this COVID thing,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
last year at this time, I was in Europe
Oh.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
with a band called the Sun Ra Orchestra.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah,
So where's some of the foreign countries that you've been to besides Europe?
I've been to Japan. I've been to Australia. I've been to Moscow, Russia, which was an unexpected,
Mm.
pleasant surprise. It's not what you might hear and see on the media.
Yeah.
People in Moscow party like it's no tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Now, did you take your skates with you?
Yep.
Well, no, because
What?
I didn't know where the rinks were, and a
Mm.
lot of the planes had weight limits,
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
and I would have to pay extra to travel with them.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
Wow.
I did visit a skating rink in Berlin, and I visited one in London.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And actually, come to find out, London is actually where skating started back in 1743.
Okay.
History lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm.
the first skates, contrary to popular opinion, were inline skates.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, the quads didn't come out till a few years later.
Mhm.
Mm. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's it. We're always learning something new every time we talk to somebody. And of course, since you are one of our elders in this game,
Mhm.
it's always interesting to know because we think you know the history until somebody actually gives you the true history.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And we're learning a
a
lot of
lot
the
more.
history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is very
Yeah.
informational
So
and fulfilling.
yeah, so we greatly appreciate you guys. So what would you say is needed? What's lacking in the skate community right
Well, to a degree, togetherness,
now?
because there's a lot of complaining about DJs and what they do. And DJs, for the most part, from my perspective, they work very hard to do what they do because they love what they do. So, of course, they
Yep.
do what they love.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And they, behind the scenes, they're spending all this money buying,
Ooh,
recording,
please,
updating equipment,
yes,
and,
please say it again. It's expensive.
and it's a time consuming process. Plus, they practice at home so
Yep.
that they can show off their skills in the ring.
Hmm.
And they try to they try to cater to as much people as possible, but you have to go in with the mindset that you're not going to please
Nah,
everybody,
you're
Hmm.
not. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you just have to do your program and
Mhm.
hope. And you're doing well when you see a lot of skaters on the floor.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then there's some that don't look out at the floor. They just have their head down and
Mhm.
groove into their own music, not
Mhm.
realizing that they're doing a job for
Hmm.
other people rather
Right.
than entertaining themselves.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a double-edged sword. But I read a lot of complaints about DJs, and I don't think it's fair because I mean,
Mhm.
if from my perspective, if you think that you can do it, why don't you try?
Yep.
Hmm.
It?
Yeah.
The one that people
Yeah.
that are complaining.
Maybe we should bring the organist back, and I think they will stop complaining.
Yeah.
It would be too difficult for that to happen now.
We're just gonna play organ music from now on. We're playing organ music,
That's
and we're
right.
gonna see,
Hey, as
y'all
long as
gonna
y'all,
appreciate us more.
right. Give them a couple weeks of that organ music and see if they respect the spin then.
That would probably bring a lot of people down to earth because, like I
Mhm.
said, there are generations of people that never skated to that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I actually remember the rink back home when I first started skating. I remember seeing the organ there, and I do
Yeah,
believe on Saturdays they had somebody come in and play it.
Hmm.
But other than that, it was still records and everything like that. So, but every now and
yeah,
then somebody will come in and play, and I'll never forget. I remember like, what is that big old? I was young. I'm like, what is that big old piano doing up there?
yeah.
So, but I actually went in on one Saturday. It was an earlier session, and they were doing artistic figure skating, and they had an organist up there playing the music, and I'm just like, really? Okay, So,
Mm,
and then one day it just disappeared. The organ just went away,
Hmm.
and
yeah.
never heard about it ever again. So,
Well, it's a lost art now,
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
back in the day, I mean, I enjoyed it
yeah.
while it was happening because that's what I came into.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people coming into what's happening now, and that's all they know, and that's pretty much all they want to know. So
Yeah, yeah.
they're not skaters are not as exploratory as we were.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's true.
We wanted to know a lot of stuff. Of course, a lot of us want to know how skates work and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. So that's what got me into skate repair because that's
Hmm.
what I do a lot in the last
Yeah,
30 years.
yeah. Well,
I fix
Yeah.
skates.
mm. That's important too.
Yeah. And I think
You
the
know.
people that are really into the art,
Hmm.
they are into the workings of the skate. Like
Right.
they want to know how the truck works and the bearings and the wheels, and they're really into it, more cerebral about the process
Hmm.
of not only the art of skating, but just the skate itself.
Right. 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 Yeah, and I think it's important to know at least some aspects of I'll just say tuning up your
Yeah.
skates because
Yeah.
it's just like having a car. Your
Hmm.
car
Right.
needs oil.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then it's gonna shut down. It's gonna break down on you. Same
Mm.
thing with
Yeah.
roller skates. So it's good
Yeah.
to know the basics at least.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I always tell skaters there's no such thing as a maintenance-free skate.
yeah,
Uh-uh.
that's true. Yeah.
Skates need a degree of maintenance too, just like anything else.
Hmm.
Skate needs love too.
Sure do.
Yeah, you
Sure
take
do.
care of them, they take care of you on the floor.
They most
Oh
certainly
yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah, most certainly will. So what's next for you?
Well, I'm still waiting for the pandemic to ease up enough for me to start back playing.
Hmm.
Mm.
I've actually gone to a few parks that skaters have come to because they asked me to come to be around to fix a skate here and there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't skated outside since the '90s.
Mm.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Because even that was different back then.
Hmm.
Outdoor skating because we
Hmm.
would go to Central Park or place. Even though that's still going on, but I just haven't done it because I guess with the kind of knees that I have now, as opposed to I have had then.
They say they're not the same knees you had before.
No, no.
Wow. That's all right. Well, we greatly appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and everything
And
like
give
that.
us the
Yeah,
history.
give
Oh,
us the
no problem.
history because we definitely learned a lot,
Yeah.
during our time with you. And, I'm pretty sure some of the listeners, they're actually getting an aha moment too, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So,
Mhm.
so how can the skaters actually connect with you?
Uh, well, they can call me like most of them do, or they can find me on Facebook
Hmm.
and message me. And some have, when they have skate related questions about the inner workings of the skate and how to adjust
Hmm.
a skate to their, way of skating because, no two skates are adjusted alike. So,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
and I know how to do that kind of stuff because I can watch you skate for 5 minutes and I can take your skate from you. And if it's out of adjustment, I can bring it right back.
Mm, nice,
It's like
nice.
a lost art.
Now that's yeah, that's some skill right there. That's some skill right there.
Well,
So,
a lot of people in the New York, New Jersey, Philly area know me. They knew me from back when I, was a floor guard, and some know me from skate
mhm,
skate maintenance,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Or they ask me questions about skates because they know that I know about them, or they
Mhm,
ask me questions about skate moves because you know, I used I used to do some of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I can still show people how to do it.
mhm. So, do you have a skate name? Because if not, I'm gonna call you the skate whisperer.
No,
You
well,
know,
a lot of people call me Skate Dr. James. That's about it.
skate Dr.
Okay.
James. Okay, the skate doctor is in the building, aka the skate whisperer. So, but
Some
again,
people have called me a skate guru or whatever.
Hey,
hey, hey, if you got the skills, if you got the
take it.
skills, then hey, yeah, there you go. So, but again, we greatly appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and everything.
Well,
It
Mhm.
thanks for having me.
definitely was a pleasure having you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak with you again once
I'm
everything
here.
is over with all this
Yeah,
pandemic and
yeah. Mm.
whenever, like, if it ever goes back to normal again.
I do normal. It's
Yeah,
fine. We'll
yeah,
have
I
a
knew
new
normal.
normal.
So, and hopefully we'll be able to see you out there skating about at one of the skate events, and you know,
Yeah.
um, I might have you whisper something to my skates. You know, so
What kind of skates do you have?
I actually have mine were custom made. I actually have the military combat boots,
Uh-huh.
and I have the sure plates, and then I have the uh, rollerball wheels. So, and I've skated on those things for years,
Oh, okay.
and they've been extremely solid, extremely solid. I haven't had no issues, So I don't even know if I ever need another pair of skates again. I don't know,
Oh no.
one day maybe, but right now I have my Cadillacs, so I'm good.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
yeah.
my plates are 30 years old, but I just put my fourth boot on
Oh wow,
Okay.
wow.
Snyder
Wow.
Imperial,
Yeah.
Snyder Imperial plate.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You got my plates beat. I think mine are about 14 years old.
Mhm.
Oh.
14 years. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm coming for you. All right, you guys. We want to say thank you guys for tuning in and
Mhm.
listening. I'm DJ R. Cole.
And I am listening.
And until next time, we
We'll
will
see
see
you
you on
on
the
the
wood.
wood.
All right.